So, well, no, it's not okay. Put that there. It's a flimsy cage. I'll never get out of this. Well, hello everybody, I'm High Treason, and no cage is going to stop me reviewing my favourite game, which is Haunting Ground for the PlayStation 2. Yep, you probably saw this coming when I did Clock Tower 3. Well, let's start with the box. That would be the logical thing to do. It's the same crap as every other shiny disc PlayStation 2 game. I know I use shiny disc now, I've been learning. Now, according to the back of the box, Fia has found a new home. Fiona wakes from a car crash to face something far worse. She's being held prisoner in a gothic castle filled with horrors. Bloody experiments are taking place in sacred laboratories. Demented monsters and sinister psychopaths stalk the corridors. What do they want with Fiona? To trick her? To trap her? To kill her? Can you help Fiona escape the haunting grounds? And there's a little bit more, but you'll have to find that out for yourself. The manual's in black and white and it has one grammatical error, but you know, we can't floor the box too much. It keeps the disc safe, and the manual does tell us how to play the game, at least the basics, which is what we'd want, and gives us a background on the characters. So it does what it's supposed to do. I suppose we should probably try playing it. It was awfully nice of my captors to leave me a television and a PlayStation 2 in the cage here, so I don't get completely bored. Whoever put me in here, that was really thoughtful. Well, let's start it up. Oh, jeez. Tiger Woods. Get that crap out of here. Let's put this on. Much better. Easily scratched garbage. At least it looks pretty on the wall. Here's a little bit of trivia for you. The cubes that appear on the start screen for the PlayStation 2 are actually proportional to the amount of games you've played and how long you played them for. The number of cubes being the number of save games on the memory card, and the height being how long it's aware of you playing the game for. Seems not a lot of people were aware of that.
First up, story and design. Well, as we found out on the back of the box, things don't really look too good for our protagonist Fiona. Luckily, Fiona looks good throughout the whole game though. Anyway. She wakes up locked in a cage, discovers a dog collar, this is important, and a dog who doesn't hang about. I forewarn you, I'm not going to say much about the game and story beyond the first quarter of the game. The thing with these games is they're very dependent on the story, and if I tell you everything it'll ruin it for you. Also, you can't help but think they were just pushing the boundaries of what they could get away with showing you with that sheet, seriously.
This game's fucking perverted. Seriously, what was wrong with the developers on this one? I like it.
Things for Fiona quickly go from bad to worse. She soon meets Debilitas, the castle's groundskeeper. Unfortunately, he plays with his balls a lot and he runs after her. He's not very smart, so he's quite easy to outwit though. We soon learn that the castle isn't a very nice place at all. Debilitas is running around the place playing with dolls.
Yeah, I've got a doll. It lives in the cupboard in my room. It's made out of silicone rubber. It's quite expensive. I live on my own. Stop looking at me like that.
There's a creepy maid, Daniela, who seems almost machine-like in her behaviour.
I've gathered some clothes for you.
And the castle's caretaker, Ricardo. He's one messed up guy. They don't do much yet, except Debilitas, beyond scaring the living daylights out of Fiona all the time. After a while we meet the dog again. His name's Huey. He's going to be with you for the rest of the game. You can't complete it without him. Unlike, say, Rule of Rose, you'd better treat him proper, praising him for good work and scolding him for not doing as he's told. He's controlled by a set of commands on the right analogue stick. Interestingly, R3 is used, and I don't know many games that use this button at all. You can look for hidden items, sit, stay, and general dog stuff, but if an enemy's nearby, the controls are attack orientated. You can tell him to attack or make him stay on the spot growling, which acts as charging his attack. It makes the attack stronger. We also learn quickly of another character, Lorenzo. You don't find much about him, beyond him being old and frail, at least not yet. but it does seem he wants to help us, given his note. As things go on, we learn more. Fiona has the Azoth, the essence of life, and somebody wants it. It's obvious who, really, from very early. He doesn't hide it very well, although there is a bit of a twist. You might expect it, you might not. Depends how good you are at working things out. Although this bloke here has good taste in classical piano music, that's for certain. That's Franz Liszt Libera Stratum. There aren't just stalkers around, they're luminescents, orbs that don't do much beyond move towards you and explode on contact. Though the problem is that this makes noise, and making noise is bad. If you make noises, the stalker tends to come looking for it, and you don't want that. There are a lot of locked doors at the start, but everything is interwoven as you unlock doors. There's usually at least 2 ways of getting to or from the same location. You can also open or close a door, which can help fool the stalker into going a different way. Hiding isn't done the same as Clock Tower 3. There are hide points and evade points in the game, but you can also hide pretty much anywhere you want by crouching there. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You'll just have to try and hope like hell. The point is, there isn't a big green thing showing you where it is now. You'll have to find it yourself, though some hiding spots do bring up a little line of text at the bottom of the screen indicating that you can hide there. You shouldn't use them too often though, the stalkers soon get wise to them. Interaction is also a bit different to Clock Tower. In Clock Tower 3, standing in a doorway or interacting with an object that made text appear freezes time. Yeah, this game doesn't do that. In fact, you can't interact with a lot of things whilst being chased, and any text that appears won't stop the stalker. It'll probably stop you. And nor will a doorway. That's out of the question now. You can't stand in doorways to stop the stalkers anymore. They're going to come straight through it and kill you. You can still pause if you need to. There's also a panic mode, which is quite similar to Clock Tower 3, except it's far more difficult. Fiona can trip over and fall, leaving her unable to move. I've had panic attacks before, and this has happened to me. It sucks being laid on the floor, unable to move, really breathe or speak. Every inch of your body's tingling. Your fingers, your mouth, your eyes, and even your brain. And every last impulse in your brain is telling you that you're going to die, and any breath you manage to take is going to be used on screaming uncontrollably. The game does a good job with it, actually. You'd best hope Huey likes you if you're in this state. Also, you can't bring the inventory up if you're panicking. There's a stamina system for you and Huey. Run and kick too much and it'll run out. You can restore it with items like chamomile for Fiona or beef jerky for Huey. You can also craft better items using medallions in a machine. There are a load of things that can be created, some of them help you out, like earrings that make Fiona's panic go away faster, or boots that let her attack harder. There are loads of items to find or craft that can be used as weapons, no guns. Things like magnesia that you set down and hope the enemy steps on. It's quite effective. You can beat stalkers down by kicking, lunging or using items instead of hiding, but they'll only halt them temporarily, though Debilitas has run away from me before. If they're knocked out, you can mug them for items, but don't milk it. A lot of detail was put into the game. Look at the spider webs. These are like living spiders doing spidery things. That's fucking awesome. All the little imperfections in floors and grand architecture, it makes the game so much better. Oh, and no loading screens. Yeah, no shit. You'll see a screen at the start of the game, but unless you have to load again by dying or something... Oh, by the way, there's no continues. You'd better have saved. I like it that way. Given the updates to the panic, stamina, AI and all manner of other things, there is a good chance you will die as well, so you really should be saving. Overall, I think it's probably harder than Clock Tower 3, and this is normal mode. There are so many small details that make this game what it is. They got a lot onto that disc and it works very well. The story's deep and complicated, full of twists and turns. The stalkers are actually quite deep characters as well as Fiona, with their own backgrounds. Everyone has their own thing. You'll probably grow to pity Debilitas in some way. And I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't have some amount of like for Daniela in some way or another. Daniela's my favourite character. Daniela. I actually used to know someone that looked a bit like her. Controls and gameplay. The controls are similar to other games in this genre, though unlike, say, Silent Hill, it uses Clock Tower 3's proper 3D controls and not the tank controls. It's better this way, in my opinion. There is a backstep button, but Fiona turns really fast, so other than that there is no need to walk backwards. I mean, there's no guns, so what would you use it for? You can change the layout of the controller a little bit in the menu, but none of the controller layouts are the same as Clock Tower 3. Oh, the game does support surround sound, by the way, which would be pretty nice to test, but every surround sound amplifier I've got hold of has exploded before I've got to use it. Gameplay is much of what we discussed before. Run away from the stalker, solve puzzles, and find out more of the story. You'll explore a few locations, namely the castle, which is bloody huge. Look at the map. Actually, you'll probably be looking at that a lot before you know your way around. There's a mansion, and this forest, to name a few. The forest's an amazing piece of work, and I'll talk about it more in a moment, but needless to say, these locations are really big and detailed. Some of the most, if not the most detailed, I've seen on a PlayStation 2. And there's no load screens breaking the immersion. I want to know how they actually pulled this off at a decent frame rate. I've yet to see the game slow down. Puzzles being a big part of the game means you'll be spending a while figuring those out. Some are simple, like pushing blocks around the room to put them in the right place. Others are more complicated though. If you look around, there are often clues to what you need to do. Some puzzles need Huey. The earliest example I can think of being this one where you need to make him go through a hole so you can open a gate. This isn't actually a mandatory part of the game, but a lot of the puzzles that require him are, so you should really be treating Huey well. I can't emphasise that enough. If you want to succeed at this game, you need Huey. You'll need him to retrieve certain items as well. A neat little feature that the game has, it does remember the last save slot you used, so you don't have to navigate to it the next time you access the load screen, even if you've turned the game off. It'll already have the last one you used selected when you come back.
You know, sometimes it's just the little things that matter. I think they make all the difference.
Of course, there are boss fights. Fiona doesn't get special spiritual weapons like Alyssa. No, she has to fight by force using her own attacks and those of Huey, or by her own wit. You can beat most of the bosses without hitting them once, using the environment in some way. In fact, this might affect your ending. There are 4 endings in total. You just need to take your time and figure out what to do in a boss fight. I can't help but feel a couple of the boss fights might have been a little too easy, but there is an unlockable hard mode, and that likely corrects this. I can't speak for everyone though. I guess I should talk about the inventory screen. Well, it does work. I literally can't think of much to say about this. You know how these work by now. You select an item and do something with it. It's not hard to put in a game and have work, and they've done it well enough here. Unlike Clock Tower though, you will actually need to be in here quite a lot, because pressing use on, say, a locked door won't open it if you have the key. You need to select the correct item from the correct screen. There's a comment section there. Read that often. Fiona's thoughts appear there, giving you clues or straight up answers to puzzles or the location of an item that you might need. There are hide and evade points as discussed before, but there are also status restore points, namely the sink, which resets stamina and such. Whilst I'm in this room, the game does pass the Duke Nukem test. That being that if I see a bog in a game, I'll immediately pummel the use button like a maniac in the hopes that it works in some way. It actually doesn't work in this game, but the game has the decency to state a reason why. Having said that though, I think if Fiona had sat down and started taking a piss, it might have broken the immersion a bit, and it would have probably offended someone. I've never understood why that is. It's alright for a dude to take a piss, but as soon as you start talking about a woman taking a piss, it's really taboo. What's the deal with that? Everybody has to do it at some point, for fuck's sake. Hey, check it out. Daniela watches White Noise on the TV.
Huh. Hey, I used to do that.
There's a key plate machine, which is a nifty thing, because you have to type the right plates sometimes. Oddly enough, you'll have to do it to open that bog that I was in not long ago. It is used to open things or control things in general, which is really neat. Some of the things they did with it were quite original. Graphics. Who said graphics? Where do I start? I mean, wow! They went all out on this. Admittedly, the odd texture's a little bit blurry, but no more than any other PS2 game. You have to consider technical limitations. I mean, look at Project Zero or Fatal Frame to American viewers. That has really blurry textures, and visually it's a fraction of what this game is. That's not to say that it looks bad. It came out early in the PS2's lifespan, and they did a good job with it. But this game's something else entirely. This game uses the entirety of the DVD's capacity. A lot of cutscenes in Clock Tower 3 were pre-rendered, and that took a lot of room up on the disc. In other words, pre-rendered cutscenes are just playing a video file from the disc. Only really the first two cutscenes in this one are pre-rendered, the rest of them run in-game, and I suspect this might have been done in part just to actually fit the game on the disc. Although the slight advantage to this method is that if you're using an unlockable outfit, it does stay through the cutscenes. There's one last note on the cutscenes is that you can pause or skip them once you've seen them already, which is quite a nice touch. The architecture, texturing, lighting, it all comes together so well in this game. All the little detail, missing bricks in the wall, broken tiles on the floor, shadows everywhere. That forest is an awesome place. How many forests in games look like forests? Well, this one does to me. This place was where I realised how much I actually liked this game, standing here on the edge of the forest looking out over a lake. I got a weird tingly feeling. I hadn't felt it for a long time. So long, in fact, I didn't know what it was.
Now, I think what that sensation was the same as when I played my first ever video game. That being River Raid for the Atari 7800. I'm not kidding, it's a dodgy bootleg and it only works on the 7800. That's not my original cartridge from when I was 3 years old, but it's exactly the same and it wasn't very easy to find.
Everything you look at in this game is like a work of art. Or a work of voyeur, it depends whose perspective you're watching it from. Everything in this game has this really twisted look to it. There aren't many straight lines in the world. It really does feel like an old castle. The character models are really well done. The game seems to make heavy use of motion capture. Also some kind of jelly physics. Yeah, I wonder how many lines of code are dedicated to making Fiona's tits bounce around like that. That aside, character models look human enough, or not, as the case may be. I certainly feel confident saying that no two locations look the same, though there seems to be an element of symmetry in the maps. You probably wouldn't notice this if you didn't look at the map. Oh, by the way, reflective water. Don't usually see water done well in a game, it's nice to see that. One thing that's worth pointing out is that when you start the game you can put it in progressive mode. This is like EDTV resolution with no interlacing. If you have a progressive mode telly like me, use this. Everything is better without interlacing. Sound. Sound doesn't disappoint. We've got voices, they work well enough for me. Can't really floor them, though some of the early lines do sound a bit awkward.
For you. Wait! Don't go.
But I think they were supposed to. I mean, I could be wrong. Daniela's supposed to sound really monotone, by the way. That's not bad voice acting. Actually, Moira Quirk might just be the best voice actress in the game. The sound effects are pretty nice as well. They're certainly on par with any other game of this type from around this time, and I've not noticed anything that offends the ears in any way. At least not that you wouldn't want to be offending the ears. Everything seems to sound the way it should. There's a lot of noise in the game actually, whether it be wind, machinery or who knows what. One sound you'll grow to like is the ticking of a clock, as you use clocks to save the game. Maybe a nod to Clock Tower. Hearing footsteps in the distance isn't good, and you'll want to make sure not to go that way. It won't be anything good. Chances are though the music will have stopped by then, or at least the ambience track. Those were unnerving enough already without them stopping. The stalker music will probably start up in a moment as well, and now you're really in trouble. You'll want to listen to the music when it's playing for the stalker. It changes its speed and pitch slightly depending on how close the stalker is, so it's a good indicator for figuring that out. The music in the game's really weird, but in a way that works. It doesn't really use conventional sounds, and why should it? Every chapter of the game gets its own music. Huey's theme's awesome too. It's a fine example of that music doesn't have to be complicated to be awesome if you pull it off right.
You saved me. Come here. Come on, boy. What's your name? Huey? So you're Huey. Well, hi, Huey.
The music that plays in the credits is probably some of the most beautiful music I've heard in recent years. It's almost what I imagine mermaid songs might sound like, if they existed. Hang on, Capcom and mermaids. Oh no, just no. 24 hours later we're going to have Rule 34 disasters on our hands. I don't doubt this game's generated enough of that on its own. Oh come on Capcom, you were just asking for it with that. Atmosphere. Aces again. The game feels right, in that quite a lot of it feels wrong, in a lot of different ways.
Beautiful, isn't it? That, my dear, is what you will become in the future. Go ahead. You may touch it.
You have this real feeling that you're probably going to be violated or killed pretty soon. Probably both. The game made me feel trapped and hopeless and sad. All manner of things. It did make me happy as well, but you really connect with Fiona throughout the game. One enhancement to this is probably the fact there are no gauges or heads-up display to tell you how healthy, tired or scared you are. You grow a connection with the characters, you feel what they feel, at least within the limitations of what the game can represent. Everything's so dark and murky most of the time, but that just makes the use of colour stand out even more. Usually it's connected with some insane contraption or idea. This game pushed what it could get away with, I think. I'm not good with this whole atmosphere thing, so when I can tell you did a good job, you probably did a damn good job. The game's scary, but it's not everyone's kind of scare. You won't have ghosts jumping out yelling, "Boo!" It's not that kind of horror, which seems to be popular nowadays, unfortunately. The horror with this game is much slower, more deliberate. It plays on your mind. It's a more psychological horror. In other words, Japanese horror. Summary. Well, this is a really tricky one. I've barely scratched the surface. This game is large and complex, and it's quite difficult for a reviewer like me, who's used to little sideshow attraction DOS games and such, to take on. Keep in mind these scores are based on my opinions. It's compared to other games of its kind, but being my favourite game, I'm heavily biased, so feel free to come out with your own score. I'm not going to emphasise this enough in this video. Story and design is 20 out of 20. A story as twisted as this, it's always going to be a hit with me. The story flows well, getting deeper and further confusing and unsettling Fiona and the player. You'll be entering a world of alchemy, most likely rape and all manner of abominations that you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. Except Daniela, I wouldn't mind meeting her down a dark alley. It'd be nice. Anyway, this game is designed very well. It introduces a lot that wasn't in Clock Tower, and it generally improves on what was. Clock Tower came off as cheesy sometimes, and it handed things to you on a plate once you knew how it worked. This game keeps you thinking. I honestly struggle to find anything wrong with it in this category. Controls and gameplay, 20 out of 20. Nothing wrong, so much right. Granted, the gameplay is not everyone's cup of tea, but that's not what I'm judging it for. I understand if you don't like this type of game. It's my cup of tea and it works well. What it's trying to be, it succeeds at being. Very, very well. Incredibly well. I know of no other game of this kind that implements everything so well. I'm sorry, but it's perfect in my opinion here. Graphics, I'm gonna have to go 20 out of 20. Again, I can find nothing to subtract points for. I just can't. I want to, but I can't. Isn't there a rule that says you can't score 100 points? How about if I score this category 19.99? Just because Ricardo's leg clipped through his jacket, apparently. Thing is, I've never noticed this in-game. Everything else is too well made, and there's too much going on for me to even see it. All you have to do is look at that forest again, them spider webs, and the camera work and the models. On the PS2 in this genre, I don't think anything better was possible. Sound, 20 out of 20. Again, perfect. It can't be improved upon in any way that I can think of. Everything sounds like it should. The voices play a big part in your feelings towards a character, helping you to like or dislike them. There is a lot more dialogue in this game than Clock Tower 3. Fiona and the rest of the cast do talk quite a lot more. Atmosphere, 20 out of 20. I get drunk on the atmosphere, sorry. Again, I can't think of a way to improve that. You knew this was going to happen. It's 99.99 out of 100. My scoring system doesn't have a decimal place, so it should really say 100 of 100 there. I just don't want to give a game 100 points, because there must be some room for improvement. I just don't know what it is.
Well, to conclude this, if you like Clock Tower 3, you'll probably like this game. It generally improves on everything that was in Clock Tower 3, and where it removes something, it adds something better, in my opinion. Now, you're not going to agree with my score on this, I'd be willing to bet, but that's the thing, I can only offer you my opinion, and my opinion is this game is perfect in every way for what I want from a game, but you might look for different qualities in a game. So if your opinion is different, that's fine. Feel free to have a different one. I'm taking a gamble by doing this, and that's fine, I don't mind. But this is what I think. If you have your own thoughts, feel free to share them, provided you do so in a civilised manner. I haven't been a dick about mine. Anyway, that's the way I'm going out on this. I like this game. If you haven't played it before, I'd recommend you try it out yourself. And maybe you'll like it, who knows? If you like Clock Tower 3, you probably will anyway. So, that's it. I'm High Treason, and I'm going to go and find out what dickhead locked me in this cage. Hey, Daniela. Here, don't you laugh at me. No, you can't do that. Don't you know that I'm the one who...
Well, as an afterthought, I don't know how I'm talking given that I've been stabbed, but yeah, this game has chairs. Yeah, lots and lots of chairs. So certain other YouTubers who don't like chairs would probably be advised to stay away from this game. That is, if they weren't too busy making videos reminding you that they're going to review something they've said they're going to review, rather than actually just going and reviewing it. You know, got to maximise those partnership ad revenue shit, haven't you?